Good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 16th. We'd like to welcome everyone to our school board meeting. We have members present in the boardroom. We have members Lessons, Jacobs, Holloman. Higgins is here. He's not in his seat, but he is here. Member Donnelly. Online, we have member Wilson, and of course, myself in the boardroom. We also have Dr. Bryant, our superintendent, along with Amanda Foster, our executive assistant. And with that, we will please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the call to order time was actually 6:07. Member Lessons, would you please do the land acknowledgement?
Thank you. On behalf of the Anchorage School Board, I want to take a moment to recognize and offer gratitude for the sacred ancestral lands of the Dena'ina people. We acknowledge and appreciate that our offices, facilities, and schools are on these sacred indigenous lands, and we honor the traditional care that has been given to this land throughout generations. We are grateful for the opportunity to grow, learn, work, and create educational communities on this sacred land. We extend continued respect for the many cultures, creativity, and resilience of its indigenous peoples. Chinan.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Our student will be back with us next. Thank you. We'll be back with us next month once school is underway. But the board would like to welcome you to our meeting, and we'd like to thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and the work of this board. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. That moves us now to the item A3, approval of the agenda.
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved in second to approve the agenda as written.
Madam President, I move to amend the agenda by pulling item 5 from the consent agenda, memorandum 001.
Okay. Move to
Second.
Moved and second to approve pull item 5 from the consent agenda. Is there any opposition to pulling item 5 from the consent agenda? Point of clarification. The second was Member Jacobs. Seeing no opposition to pulling item 5 from the consent agenda, that stands. We are now back to the approval of the agenda as amended. Is there any opposition to approving the agenda as amended? Not seeing or hearing any. The agenda is approved as amended. That brings us to item B, and we will resume our goal monitoring conversations in September. And we are really looking forward to continuing that process. And so that brings us to item C, which is our public comment. And before I'd like to just read our introduction to our public comment. Again, welcome. This is the community's first opportunity to provide public comment to the board. The board has set aside 1 hour time slot at the beginning of the meeting for public comment. Public comments in excess of the hour will be heard at the second opportunity, which is at the end of our meeting. Comments may also be submitted in writing. During public comment, board members will not answer questions or engage in discussion with members of the public. This is the public's time to speak and the board's time to listen. The school board welcomes the public to observe and contribute to our meetings through their comments. However, to be productive, our meetings must be structured and civil. The school board conducts public meetings under Robert's Rules of Order. These rules require the board and the public to be civil and respectful to each other's opinions and statements. Here are a few requirements under Robert's Rules. And as you enter the boardroom, you would have also, we made available just the audience participation rules of engagement for our boardroom. And I will be paraphrasing what's in that particular document. No profanity or foul language. Do not attack a board member or speaker's motives. Refrain from disturbing the meeting, which actually amounts to no cheering, applaud, outbursts, or waving of signs or posters. If you should like to distribute items to the board, please give them to Amanda, who is seated right here to my left, and she will distribute the information to the board. As the president,
can I have a point of order?
Point of order.
Yeah, as to distributions to the board, I think it's really helpful. I brought this up before that they identify the source of those.
The source of the whatever they're handing out.
Who it's coming from. Yeah.
Okay. And I will share that with Amanda when she's done here. Thank you, Member Donnelly. As president of the board, it is my duty to enforce these rules of decorum and civility. As such, and consistent with Robert's Rules of Order, I have the authority to rule any speaker out of order for violation of these rules or who fail to conduct themselves in a civil manner. So additional details can be found in the handout. And so I would like to start public comment with those who have signed up. Okay, thank you. Let's start with telephonically. We have Danielle Kemp. Do we see him online? Okay, we don't see Mr. Kemp online. I'll try to come back. Rebecca Hayden in person. Rebecca? Oh, she couldn't make it. Okay. She could not make it. Thank you. Okay, let's try Jessica Estes. Jessica is in person. I don't see Jessica. Let's, Mr. Hanson, Martin Hanson. I see that you are here. Welcome, Mr. Hanson. You have 3 minutes.
ASD has spent the last 2.5 years acting like they were asking for public input on the use location for the rebuild, but not actually using public input on the decision. ASD decided unilaterally to build a large 2-story elementary school on the southern shady, low, wet end of the lot. How wet? Very, very wet. The water table is high. Today, I measured it at 58 inches below ground level. It's a simple instrument, but it works, and that's 58 inches. I don't know why we would put our students at risk on ground that's wet. ASD has been deceptive. April 7, 2020, the school bond passed with the following wording: designed funding to replace Inlet View Elementary School, including demolition of the existing building, construction of a new school on the existing site. And the existing site is the north end of the school property. July 2020, ASD received a proposal letter from the architect for a south side replacement. The contract was signed on September 25th, 2020. The first of ASD's building design committee meetings was on October 8th of 2020. of this and subsequent meetings were held in secret. In October of 2021, ASD held a public meeting to reveal the final design. We were told that our comments weren't wanted and our suggestions were not needed. And this has been the reality of every single meeting since. ASD again continued with their suboptimal location at the south end of the property prior to public meetings and before determining risks and costs. Last Thursday, August 11, ASD hosted a public meeting at Inview School where we were told the design had not been changed and it would be presented to the Urban Design Commission, that's the UDC, for approval on September 14 of this year. The UDC rejected design last March. I don't know what they'll do this time, but I think that there's a chance to come up with a better school, a better design. There's no need to put your students at risk to do so at unknown costs when there's an excellent proven site that is safer and will cost less at the north end of the property. We're asking you again, please stop this plan, redo the design with actual costs, actual safety assessments, and real public input. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanson. Next, we have in person, Lisbeth Huddleston. Lisbeth? Okay, not seeing her. We'll move on. Our next speaker is Questa Locke. Questa Locke. Telephonically? Nope. Okay. So in person, Tara Devlin. Tara, welcome. I'm sorry?
I talk really fast, and I was seeing if anyone wanted to look at it.
Oh, no, you go ahead and start. Yeah. Thank you. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, board. Welcome, Superintendent, for this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tara Devlin. I'm a graduate of Anchorage School District, and I have been part of the Anchorage community for 24 years since we moved here from Bethel in elementary school. I have worked alongside and advocated for many of you because of our shared values and equity in public school. For the past 3 years, I have families at Diamond Estates Mobile Home Park on Arctic and Diamond and work for their schools South and Golden View on the Upper Hillside and Rabbit Creek as the English language learner, teacher, advocate, and liaison for our families and students. I want to acknowledge and support the ASD staff and board that the support that they gave our hardest hit students with families dealing with anxiety, poverty, depression, and suicide attempts, all while trying to get the internet for their kids in the midst of a global pandemic. The school closures and online learning showed us that a distinct disadvantage for the students in the neighborhood compared to their Southside and Girdwood peers because of the internet, limited English, food security, and the heavy responsibility on older students to take care of their siblings. The majority of students at Diamond Estates are our English language learners, migrant ed, special needs, CIT, and our Alaska Native and American Indian educational programs. They all or most qualify for free lunch, and they live the farthest you can live from a homeschool in Anchorage. We cannot let this neighborhood, these 337 students, risk losing the ability to go to school again. Over the last 3 years, we have all the data to show that learning is inaccessible for most of the students living in this neighborhood unless they are physically at school. We have to get them physically to school every day. And the fact that their homeschool is on the hillside is not their fault. With that, I need your help. We need to prioritize these 337 students and their families from the busing crisis. We need to bus every single day to school from Diamond Estates, even if it's only for a portion of the day. This Anchorage neighborhood has a 40-minute bus ride 8 to 9 miles away from their home, while they sit next to Diamond High School, a 5-minute drive or an 8-minute bike ride away. And if they went to that school, I would not be here. But that is not the case. There is no public bus service that goes up to the hillside and no option for driving with this schedule. Our families in the neighborhood many times don't have reliable transportation or even driver's license to safely get their kids to DeArmond, Rabbit Creek, and then Clatt to Bayshore. They should not be forced to have to get a zone exemption because we know that that's detrimental to kids. And then they wouldn't ever have the bus because our policy says you can't have a bus with the zone exemption. I'm pleading for you to make this an absolute priority right now today to make an equitable choice over an equal choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Madam President, point of personal privilege. Can we ask Ms. Devlin to?
Oh, yes. If you would like to leave your statement, you can. Thank you. Next, we have Martha Lopez. Is Martha online? Says telephonically. Is there another way to slow down? Martha Lopez. We don't see her online.
Yes.
Okay, well, we don't see her. I'll try to come back around. Katrina Zimmerman. Katrina Zimmerman in person. What about Keith Coulter? Welcome, Keith. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Keith Coulter. I'm a junior ROTC instructor at South Anchorage High School, and I'm here to support our Diamond Estates students. Tara, her statements was phenomenal, and it spelled it out. I don't think I need to say much more than that, but we are definitely here in to attempt to ensure that those students get counted as eligible for busing in the midst of the situation that we're suffering through with lack of drivers. I think they are an absolute priority. They have to have a bus. I don't want to see them missing one more day of school. My experience with those students are they are definitely at risk always, and they need that kind of support where they have stability in transportation to ensure that they get through our doors. So I'd appreciate your attention to that so that transportation department could perhaps, rather than broad brush the whole situation, to really get into the nuance and support those kids. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. Okay, next we have Jessica, is it Lowers? I apologize for mispronouncing it. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Lowers, and I'm a parent of 2 Clatt Elementary students and the president of the Clatt PTA. I'm here in my role today as a parent of 2 students from the Diamond Estates neighborhood and as a neighbor to nearly 160 students in the Diamond Estates neighborhood that go to Clatt Elementary. That does not include my neighbors who attend Golden View and South High School. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you, the school board, the individual school board members that I have already spoken to, and for the district for the ways that they are already positively responding to the unique need of Diamond Estates, transportation to and from Clatt Elementary. For those who are not aware, I believe that Clatt has the longest elementary commute to school, is well over the walking distance. 75% of Clatt students reside in Diamond Estates, and 98% of those students qualify for the district's economic disadvantage qualifications. The heart of my ask is that the district make decisions that are right and equitable, not equal, for the students of Diamond Estates. Busing for all students at this neighborhood must be consistent, and it must be a priority. Carpooling and gas cards, while they may benefit some, is not a realistic solution for our families, no matter how short term, for parents and families who are working hard just to keep a roof over their head and food on the table. While I understand that the district is doing its best to provide transportation for all students, the solution that has been proposed is certainly not equitable. While all ASD families are impacted by the bus driver shortage, economically disadvantaged families are severely impacted, to the point that my concern is that a large majority of our students will not be able to access education at this time due to the transportation deficiencies. Not only is this current solution not equitable, but the information has not been dispersed to families in an equitable way. To my knowledge, busing solution information has not been translated into the majority of languages that our district's families speak other than English. And in fact, I recently got a phone call from a neighbor whose first language is Spanish. She had read the busing information provided by the district, but could not understand the process or the impact the busing decision had on her student. This is a known barrier for many families in our neighborhood and within the district overall that must be addressed. Finally, I ask that you consider that busing the busing has already been coordinated for our neighborhood. I understand that there are students who fall into both cohort 2 and cohort 3. This splits half of Diamond Estates into one busing cohort and the other half into the other. In previous years, we've had 2 bus routes in our neighborhood that were already at maximum capacity with overflow. How will the district clarify and address this complexity when students will inevitably try to access bus services that are not in their cohort, especially if the process that has not been effectively communicated to parents and families who cannot read English or have other language barriers? Again, I urge you to do what is right and equitable for the students of Diamond Estates, whose education is not only invaluable, but who rely on their schools as safe spaces with positive adult presence and access to food. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we have Lois Epstein. Welcome, Lois. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Lois Epstein. I am an engineer with a small business, and I'm here once again to plead with the school board and the superintendent to focus on the problems with the proposed design for the new Inlet View Elementary School. I do not live adjacent to the school, yet I'm here because I find the design and public process associated with the new school so problematic. This is a 50-year decision that shouldn't be based nearly entirely on whether students will be bused for 1 year. I understand that following the last board meeting, Board President Bellamy raised several questions with the superintendent on this topic, and I would like to hear those responses. Unfortunately, ASD staff are moving forward with this poor design currently. The design reduces usable green space by 22%, worsens traffic in the neighborhood by funneling it out one exit, which could create a terrible emergency situation if there is an accident at that exit, shadows the entire grounds through much of the year, and likely worsens neighbors' high groundwater problems by creating nearby impermeable surfaces. There is a solution, however. There will be no construction of the new school before next summer under any circumstances. As neighbors, I and others are asking the school board and Superintendent Bryant to authorize development of an alternative design on the north side of the school grounds. Since such a design was partially developed and then abandoned for no clear reason, the architects need not start at square one. If such a design moves forward, all involved then could assess which design is better, unlike the previous process that excluded many stakeholders. Then the entire Inlet View / South Anchorage community could come together to support next year's school bond. Please include a discussion tonight or at your next board meeting that withdrawing the application for the new Inlet View School from the agenda for the next Urban Design Commission meeting on September 14th. And please authorize a new design on the north side to be developed for public review. Thank you very much for your consideration of these comments.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to just go back. That was our last person who signed up, but just in case people had difficulty signing on, Danielle Kemp, telephonically. Can you scroll down? Let's see. Also telephonically is Questa Locke. Is it? Okay. Nope, they're not there. And then the last one is Martha. Oh, wait. Was it Lopez? Martha Lopez. What about Katrina Zimmerman? Did Katrina show up? Nope. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that concludes our public
Madam
comment.
President, point of information. We might have one of our testifiers trying to call in. Can we get clarity from staff whether or not there's a technical issue preventing someone from calling in to testify?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I don't think there's a technical, that's a, Katie, I'm sorry. Can you check and see if there is a technical issue that's preventing, because none of the telephonic people have called in. Okay. She said they tested the link and it is working. The phone numbers. Okay. Well, we can come back at the end in case people want to call in. We can, we have a time at the very end of our agenda. All right. So that brings us to our consent agenda, item D. Can I get a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second. Okay, second by member Holloman. It's been moved in second that we approve the consent agenda as amended. Is there any opposition to approving the consent agenda as amended? Seeing or hearing no opposition, the consent agenda is approved. And that brings us to item E, action items on our agenda.
Was that the intent of the amendment to the consent agenda, or was it the intent to
I'm sorry?
treat it separately somewhere in the agenda?
It's on the action item.
All right.
We just added it to under action. Okay. So can I get a action items? First item is the uncontested student hearings.
Madam President, I move to approve the expulsions of the students associated with ASD incident number 1344342 and 1344341 as discussed in executive session. Second.
Moved in second to approve the uncontested student hearings as presented in executive session. Since we have one board member that is not in the room, we will have to take a voice vote. Whenever you're ready, Amanda.
Member Donnelly,
Yes.
Member Higgins, Member Holloman,
Yes.
Member Jacobs,
Yes.
Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
and President Bellamy.
Yes. And that motion passes unanimously. Our second item under action is memorandum number 001. Can I get a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve ASD memorandum number 001, reallocation of funding for capital projects, additional funding for Mears Middle School exterior siding and windows replacement, and security camera systems upgrade. Second.
Moved in second to approve memorandum number 001. Member Lessons, you pulled that. Your time to speak.
Thank you so much. I'm concerned about this project, not as an engineer, because I'm not an engineer, and not as an architect. I'm not an architect, but with my school board hat on, and with respect to the part of the memorandum that says that as school board members, our job is to address emergent priority facility needs in the best interest of the district, to redirect funds in this way. It's my understanding that the district has a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance. We still clearly have damage from the earthquake in 2018. We just had a work session with some of ASD's prioritized capital needs. And as much as I would like to support this move towards energy efficiency, I drove by Mears yesterday, late afternoon, and I can't see that this is the project to support at this point in time with other pressing capital needs. And I don't know if I'm erroneously understanding this as an either or, but if my understanding is that we have the pie is the pie is the pie we've heard before. I would like the board to strongly reconsider supporting this improvement at this time because we have other more pressing needs that might impact student experiences and outcomes on a day-to-day basis.
Dr. Bryant.
Through the president to member Lessons, I'm going to request my colleagues, either Chief Anderson or Chief Holland, to clarify the item.
Thank you. Through the president, to the board, to member Lessons, thank you for the question. So I'll see if I can provide some clarification. The Mears Middle School has two significant types of siding. About 25% of the school is a cementatious product, and it has been revealed that there's no insulation between the steel studs and that cementatious siding. And therefore, there's a tremendous heat loss coming out of the building. The funding source for this is 2013 and 2014 funds. That does not preclude member Lessons' point at all. I'm just giving the background, and that those funds are reimbursable funds. Those can be used for this project. The other $150,000, I'm rounding to 150 in that total balance there, is for a security camera upgrade for Mears. And that may be the nature of your comment of kind of a separate issue. And that's comes out of the general fund from our safety and security budget, specifically for security camera upgrades. Our concern with the siding there is that the lack of integrity would have an ROI on it, because we're literally blowing hot air, and the thermographic imaging revealed that out of the building, you know, through the entirety of our cold season in Alaska. So the lack of insulation would also, if we were building that new today, it would violate code. We would have to provide that insulation. So that's the background. That's kind of the hardware of the subject. And unless you had further questions.
Member Lessons.
This is a terrible question because I support energy efficiency. Do we have a sense of what the annual cost of that heat loss runs the district, or is that hard to pin down?
I don't have a sense for that, but allow me to please express it in relative terms. And let's just picture Mears. 25% of that school has basically zero insulation. If that helps. Right.
Thank you. Member Higgins.
And maybe it's a point that I need to get clarified on. I mean, if I'm building a new house, I know I got to build it to code. If over time it's not out of, it's out of code, I don't have to fix it until I sell it or something else happens. I thought with the school district, we had to constantly stay in code. If they change things, we're supposed to maintain it. So, is this a required change because we have to maintain code, or is this, just viewed as something that's discretionary?
Thank you. Through the president, to member Higgins, once we begin any work on that, if we touch 25% of the scope of that work or more, we are in fact required to update to current code.
Okay. Any other questions? Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam President. Question for Chief Holland. Is the lack of insulation in 25% of the building, does that put any aspect of the building integrity at risk? Duration of the facility can be used. Are there other long-term impacts? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Through the president, member Jacobs, we do have this thing called the dew point in a building, and we could change the dew point, in this case, in a good way, by providing that insulation. And so that I can't tell you in dollars an exact timeline, but But yes, we would expect that additional insulation and subsequent vapor barrier to prolong the integrity of moisture entering that building.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up?
Thank you, Madam President. I was speaking with Member Donnelly. Is there, I mean, it seems to me that this is something, I can't imagine that this is a feature of the building that the district would have requested. Is there any action we can take against the individuals who may have neglected to install insulation on 25% of the school?
Again, thank you for the question. That's a great one. Had this been a contemporaneous build within warranty terms, absolutely, we would pursue that as a warranty item or an error and omissions item. But this particular design and build feature is original to the building. So to be specific, outside of that range.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief Holland. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Lessons.
Is there the funds that would be used to move this project forward is a reappropriation of prior bond that voters approved? Could those funds be used for a separate capital project? Or must they be dedicated? Could we redirect them towards another capital project?
I'd like to, through the president, Member Lessons, may I redirect that to Mr. Anderson? Thank you.
Through the board president to Member Lessons. So when we have prior year bond authorization, but we haven't sold it yet, you could use it for new projects. But since almost every project we've had in the last 18 months has gone over, it does make more sense purely from a business perspective to use things like prior year authorization or FEMA reimbursement to carry those overages instead of having to put them on a new bond or some other source. So it really does make sense once you know that you can almost close out a prior year bond, especially before January of 2015, when there is a good chance for 60 to 70% state reimbursement for the use of those funds. It's cheaper for the voter to use that, and the time delay of having to put contract modifications and almost finishing a project, but not quite, and now delaying it for 2 to 3 years, hoping that bond gets passed for what really is. I mean, when you've almost got the wall opened up, it's cheaper. You're already there. The people are there. The equipment's there. It's more timely, and it's cheaper from that perspective. And that's why we try to use the prior year authorizations to close out those overages.
Chief Holland, I have just a question. Could you put a human face on this siding? I mean, what happens to the people inside the building without this siding?
We have to run our HVAC systems with much more energy to keep the temperature where we want it in the building. I'll take a bit of liberty with this answer and expound. Right now, we like to run as much outside air as we can because that helps us do air exchanges, maximum air exchange per hour. And in fact, we're running those fans 2 hours early and 2 hours late every day, as we have since the pandemic. But when we ask for more outside air, that's very cold air in the winter, which is most all of our school year, right? So when we have 25% of the building not insulated, we can't ask for as much outside air without running the boilers at very near maximum capacity throughout the day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Call for the vote.
Member Donnelly,
Yes.
Member Higgins,
Yes.
Member Holloman,
Yes.
Member Jacobs,
Yes.
Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
President Bellamy.
Yes. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item F. Those are non-action items. They will be coming back to you at our next meeting. And that brings us to the second period on our agenda for public comment. Were we able to get either? Oh, she's going to write. Okay, thank you. All right. Was that Ms. Lopez? Okay, Ms. Lopez will write in. What about Ms. Zimmerman? Ms. Locke? Ms. Estes, Jessica Estes, and Danielle Kemp. Not seeing or hearing any of them. That closes our second comment period. And now we're ready for our superintendent's update. Dr. Bryant.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Board. So I do want to share a few high-level updates related to the topics that I believe are on the community's mind, and they should have an update tonight. So this will be a rather meaty update, so I'll try to stick to the script and make sure that I communicate every single piece of information that I think you need to know tonight. But first off, to the ASD community, I want to recognize that this has been a challenging month as teachers, principals, and staff ensure that the school year is off to a great start. I also want to name that I recognize the level of frustration and pain felt by the many members of our community as a result of the bus driver shortage. Know that this is an urgent matter and that my top priority going into this new school year is getting the district closer to a level of bus service that families expect from their school district. This could be a moment where I cast blame or I point to state and national shortages of workers, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we need to be laser focused on getting our students to school so that they can learn. And for that reason, we are all hands on deck, ready to invest a robust level of resources and time to get this right. It's not about excuses. It needs to be about action. In this moment, I am committed to action. I also feel immense gratitude to the community during this time. The vast majority of the emails we're receiving are from families and community members who are volunteering solutions and connections to help the district move forward. And I know there are many that did not send me or this board emails who are just quietly and urgently trying to arrange transportation for their children during this already stressful time. There are others who are galvanizing their neighborhoods to help. They're creating Facebook groups and pages to help families connect to one another for carpools. Those families are on my mind too. The added obstacle of transportation is not what we wanted to put on families' plates, and that is at the forefront of our minds as we urgently take action. I want to recognize a few people and offices. I want to recognize the mayor's office and the assembly who were among the first to reach out to ASD and to offer the full support of the Muni. ASD looks forward to being a strong partner. We've also engaged with the governor's office on solutions, and those conversations are very promising, though I'm not able to share more beyond those conversations tonight that they're taking place. Regarding transportation, a few updates. The administration is actively working to address the bus transportation crisis for short, intermediate, and long term. As of today, we are down 70 bus drivers. However, we have 16 newly hired drivers who are in their training for their CDL license, and we have 7 more who will be starting training the next week. We have another 16 applicants who are being screened and interviewed for bus driver jobs in ASD. We have another 17 additional drivers who will report to work on September 19th here in ASD. That means that as of today, we're on track to have over 55 additional licensed drivers on the road by the end of September. And we believe that number will keep rising. So in other words, there is light at the end of this tunnel. A rotating bus schedule will not be the permanent state. Each new driver gets us closer to restoring full service, and I'm confident we will get there. We are grateful for your patience and your help getting the word out about our open bus driver positions. A team is finalizing the plan on how and where these new team members will be deployed. I will say we will prioritize student safety on the route and the communities and students and families with the highest levels of need. Do note, though, that each new route impacts multiple schools. So in other words, when we add a route, it'll be impacting schools in addition to whatever school or community we're trying to target. So I just want to be clear, there'll be a flurry of new schools that come online as we add routes, but our intent is all new bus drivers that come in, we're prioritizing those resources towards the families and communities and students with highest levels of need and the communities for which we have safety concerns about the route. Do note, parents will receive a Blackboard notification, and it will be reflected in Parent Connect. For the community's awareness, I do want to make you aware that it takes multiple weeks to complete the training and bus driver CDL licensing process. So that means that the fruit of our efforts will emerge over time. So in other words, even a regular CDL is not quite enough to be authorized to drive a school bus by federal standards. That is the reason why we're seeing progress on a lagging timeline. This also maximizes student safety. The most urgent thing we can do in this moment is to hire more bus drivers, get the word out about getting more bus drivers to work for ASD. With more drivers, we can begin to restore levels of service. Shortly after my remarks to the board last week, we had finalized some bargaining unit conversations so that we could quickly implement recruitment and retention incentives, which are up to $2,500 for bus drivers. That's just the beginning. We'll report back on updates related to driver compensation at a later time. In tandem, we've also ramped up our recruitment communication efforts. So just a couple more things about transportation. I want to thank the community for lending their support, ideas, networks to the district. We are thoroughly reviewing and vetting all options that we are hearing. And we're also thinking towards the longer term solutions and setting ourselves up for success moving forward. This will entail a thorough third-party review of our transportation processes and logistics so that our transportation department has a blueprint to become as efficient and reliable as our peer school districts across the country who are also facing similar challenges in this moment. More details on that are to come. So please know that this is just a starting point and our response will evolve as we take long-term action to rethink the way that we go about transportation in ASD. Just a couple other big bucket updates. I do want to talk about some of our just bigger picture staff retention and recruitment updates. So as I hinted last week, we made the change for the bus driver recruitment incentive. We're excited about that. We're also offering up to a $500 incentive for our bus attendants, which is another important employee that's on the school bus. We're tackling the special education issues we're seeing out there in the field. So for a very specific group of special education teachers, we're offering additional compensation, and that's a step in the right direction to target the groups where we see chronic shortages. We also lifted the maximum hour restrictions for substitute teachers because if a teacher has to be out, we want to make sure that we're minimizing uncovered or consolidated classrooms. We're also offering up to a $2,500 retention recruitment incentive for our food service managers, assistant managers, and leads. And we're offering up to $1,000 retention recruitment incentive for our school cafeteria assistants and central kitchen assistants. We know that it's not just bus drivers that are plagued by chronic shortages. So we're looking at the full picture and more is to come, but just know that as a leadership team, we're looking at that data. This will not fix the regional staffing crisis overnight, nor will it fix the one that's being experienced all across the country. But we are constantly discussing ways that will take action. Staff retention is also at the heart of our strategy, and we have our eyes on that. So I do want to thank our employee group association leaders for having these dialogues with us around this topic. Some of these types of changes, especially with these incentives, are relatively new, but this is an ongoing talent shortage that's critical to be willing to explore every single option and to do things differently as appropriate. So thank you for engaging in that conversation and developing solutions with us. Two other big buckets, Ursa Major. I just want to give a brief update that the final report was received by the administration, and it affirms the conclusion that the building is not likely to hold against a major seismic event. We're awaiting the second engineering firm's opinion, and then we'll deliberate our longer term options for action. There are no plans to occupy Ursa Major this school year. More to come. Staff professional development is something I want to talk about too. So let's get to some of the good stuff that's happening out there. So we've been gearing up for the new school year by ensuring staff receive timely and professional development so that we kick off the year the right way. So it was a pleasure to address the hundreds of new teachers at our new teacher academy last week. Personally, I was blown away by the energy and the optimism for the new school year from our new teachers. The academy was focused on onboarding those staff members to ASD on whatever's most relevant to them in their shoes as someone either new to teaching or new to the district. And then similarly, my own cabinet and myself participated in a 2-day retreat. Though I'm technically the new guy on the team, a number of my colleagues are new to their positions or new to the cabinet. So I'm glad we took the time to focus on learning how this team's going to work. And I have an incredible team. And then lastly, I want to share an update on some powerful partnerships that are in the works. I was really excited to have over 72 business and community leaders right here in the board auditorium this morning, where we discussed one of our board goals and guardrails, specifically on college, career, and life readiness. It's really exciting stuff because if we're going to connect all of our students to high-wage, high-demand jobs and to make sure that we're contributing positively to the Anchorage economy, it all starts with the collaborations between the district and our workforce partners. So I'm feeling very hopeful. They were very engaged and they're eager to figure out ways that we can partner together. So I did want to leave you on that note. We have not forgotten about the goals and guardrails. I know it's been a very operations heavy week, but at the heart of our academic strategy are not leaving any stone unturned either. So I'll just close by saying, this will be a fantastic school year. The energy, the positivity, the sincere desire to return to something that feels like normal is sky high. The ASD community is resilient, and we're all ready for schools to open and for learning to take place. So again, I want to give a sincere thank you to our ASD families for being patient with us through these initial setbacks. They are temporary, and we're on a positive path. So I will close there, Madam President.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bryant. I'd like to open it up for any board questions from the board, comments from the board relative to the report or other things that you might have in mind. Member Jacobs, you can kick us off.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Bryant, I appreciate the updates. As always, just a quick question to dial in. I think we're saying the same thing about transportation and kind of our priorities going forward as we ramp up staffing. Can you clarify how the district factored in access to public transportation when it assigned routes and drivers to a particular school, and how it will use that information to factor in where it adds drivers going forward until we're fully staffed?
So one of the first strategies that we leverage was using an existing partnership we have with the Muni on free bus passes for the secondary students. And then moving forward, we've gone into conversations around access to free bus passes for elementary students. I will say at a high level, one of the first things that the mayor's office brought up was ways to collaborate. A lot of those collaborations around city transportation are more in that intermediate to long term and not so much for the crisis short term, which we've been most focused on.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. And then I believe I heard that we're factoring in the distance between a family and their educational campus in terms of how we assign drivers. Is that accurate? Is that a factor in how we're going to assign drivers going forward?
it is something that we're looking at. Particularly, there are a number of long routes where we're concerned about safety. So safety on the routes is at the heart of our strategy, because if they're not on the bus, how are they getting there? So that's what we're thinking about.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, Member Donnelly.
Dr. Bryant is a parent of children that went for 7 years to a school where the parents had to transport their own children to the school. The first couple of weeks of hundreds of parents showing up to drop their kids off is chaos. And it takes a while for the parents to get into a pattern, learn, be educated on the proper, safe way to drop off kids and pick them up. What kind of provisions are our principals making for that? Because it's something most schools aren't used to. Now, the alternative schools are, but most schools are, and some of the charter schools are, but our normal principals don't have experience with that. And it's going to take a significant commitment by staff to be out there to make sure it's safe, that drop off and pick up.
Absolutely. Through the president to Member Donnelly, that's one of the first things we were talking about in our war room of sorts, as we're trying to figure out what are the things that are going to negatively impact the family experience dropping students off to school. And one would be any sort of traffic buildup as a result of all of these extra parents and families dropping off their kids via vehicle. There are additional considerations that come with that too, such as needing additional crossing guards, and that's one of the first things we talked about with the city was, what does partnership around safety and security look like to make sure that we can manage this additional flow? So we are talking about it. And of course, one thing that has been made loud and clear is I want to make sure that we're supporting our principals to think through all of those logistics. It's not lost on me that many of our principals are new to their school or new to their role. So our team is actively engaged with having those conversations about particular buildings and particular circumstances so that they're as prepared as they can be these first couple weeks of school while they get into the groove, to your point. And then of course, what's coming up on individual campus level conversations are things such as, early opening the school earlier, keeping it open later to help alleviate some of these other logistical considerations that you bring up.
Follow up, you're good? Member Lessons?
Thank you for all of this information. I was reflecting on the Ursa Major issue, and I'm curious, and maybe this is more for an RFI, but what is our understanding of how the Ursa Major closure changes the capacity of the J-Bear region as a whole? I know that we have maps showing, these schools are at this capacity or this region is at this capacity. I'm just wondering how closing that school skews sort of the total J-Bear capacity. And that's really for long-term planning moving forward.
Okay. I'm open to having Dr. Stuck. Would you like to comment on that based on your experience with the situation, or perhaps one of the other chiefs?
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. Through the president to Member Lessons. So that would pretty much put those schools at capacity, but we can handle it. So we're there. I mean, obviously, if once the study of Ursa Major is finished, our hope would be that we bring that school back online. So I think for the time being, we're fine. I think we'll be able to meet the need.
And along with that, Ursa, the question, what is the plan to repair? I mean, are we repairing the school? What does that look like? Oh, Chief Holland.
Thank you, Madam President. So we look forward to being able to repair the school, but unfortunately we don't have a scope of work yet. But just to expound on something I think I may have touched on a couple of weeks ago in this room, part of the study we're paying for right now will include what we call a 15% design overview, and that will inform us of the scope of work and with that, a very rough order of magnitude for expense. And so when we have that information, most likely in the next 90 days, the rest of that, we'll be able to start to talk about what that looks like in terms of dollars and also timeline.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Oh, y'all quiet tonight. Member Wilson, are you good?
I am, thank you.
Okay, so that brings up not being anymore. Thank you, Dr. Bryant, for that for the information. I really appreciate the updates, the timely ones, especially for the families. So that brings us to item I on our agenda. Comments, school board and administration comments. We'll start with Member Higgins.
Well, again, I'm excited that we have over 4.5 hours with school board just to make comments. Be afraid. I'd like to start off by thanking the comments from Diamond Estates on the equity issue. It's very legitimate concern because we already have the problems with different income groups being able to get access. Some of our optional programs, we really don't have a plan implemented to really address that, but this kind of ties into it. Equity has to do with, there are different people have different barriers. We have kids that have special needs. We make additional accommodations for them too, whether it's dyslexic, ADD, or any number of things that are out there. So it's a legitimate issue to raise to the board for the administration. I'm sure they'll look at this issue as to how we might be able to do it, but it does have a pretty significant impact that way, and I appreciate that. I'll comment here, just one comment to appreciate Member Lesson's observation on the construction issue, because going by and looking at the place and doing all that type of inquisitive type of approach to being on a board member, I appreciate working with, because I like that type of interest and challenging it, and thank you. I want to thank the superintendent for his comments tonight, and particularly thanks to all the staff. This is a real challenging year, but every year has got its own issues, and it's important, I think, to recognize that employment with ASD is also public service. We're talking about impacting the lives of kids, whether you're, the bus service, food service, teachers, any number of the classes of the different positions that are out there. We tend to find that employment turnover goes up if we didn't have HR and finance paying them. So things like this, those are important issues as well. And I appreciate everything being done. I'll just make comments just to the school crossing guard, because last year I remember going by one school when it was really cold, and the school crossing guard always out there, and I went and bought a present. And it's just a appreciation for that's a hard job to fill. They suffer with that one. You're only talking about a couple of hours in the morning and the afternoon, in the day. And they still make those efforts to do that for the safety of the kids. And that just gives you one indication of all the different variety of jobs out there that are important to the schools. I'll just comment about the incentives. One of the comments I always hear is that public sector should be more like private, and incentives are what private sectors are doing right now. They recognize the need and the attraction for that type of one-time type issues. Providing that funding, getting the staffing is critical. So this is a good common sense approach to filling jobs. It works, and that is necessary. You got to put something out there. And so I really appreciate that effort out there. And then when it comes to professional development, when I read all the options in regards to being successful, whether it's curriculum or other issues, they really stress putting a bigger emphasis on professional development. And they say you're not going to get the results you want to if you don't invest in professional development. So I like hearing that from the superintendent. I appreciate that. Thank you, because I think that can make a big difference. So to all the staff out there, and of course we're doing everything we can for kids, and I appreciate that. But a great appreciation for all the staff that are out there looking at ASD. It makes a difference on education. And remember this, when we change the results of early grades, when we have higher graduation rates, we change the lives for them, for their families, and for future generations. So it is a rewarding opportunity, and it is well worth the effort. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few quick thank yous. Wanted to thank and welcome staff back to the first week of school. I know my youth are excited to be back in a building here this week as our students across our municipality. I did want to give a shout out to ASD administration for facilitating a long but excellent meeting at Inlet View Elementary. I think the meeting was scheduled for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and it went past 8:30, I think, before staff were allowed to head home for the night. And so thank you very much for facilitating that meaningful public engagement. Wanted to thank my colleagues here on the board for a pretty awesome work session regarding how to grapple with some of the long-term complications of how we utilize one-time funding from the state. Make sure we're leveraging that for projects that'll last years or even decades. And then lastly, I know I went to a vote at one of our campuses today. Wanted to thank poll workers for making democracy happen. Thank you.
Member Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. Public testimony tonight brought up the upcoming September 14th Urban Design Commission meeting, and that was discussed at our last meeting also. And so I had a discussion after that meeting with our CFO and some of our team. And the way I understood it is the district was not going to be advocating for them to approve any particular design regarding Inlet View, but this was something that the commission had decided to schedule at this time. Maybe our staff could get together with the folks that had raised that concern about the upcoming September 14th meeting, make clear what the department's involvement, or not the department, but the district's involvement is going to be with that. I greatly appreciate that being clear to the public. Additionally, I'd just like to say Thursday is going to be very challenging for a lot of parents and for our staff. And I'm just really, really asking the Anchorage public for understanding and cooperation and for courtesy to each other, because those folks who haven't gone through the first day of a drop-off pickup school, it can be kind of harrowing at times. And to just keep in mind, don't be on your cell phones driving through the school parking lot. There's kiddos walking everywhere. And just really just have some compassion for everybody that's there, because it's going to be very challenging for folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. And I'll go to Member Lessons.
I appreciate that, Member Donnelly, the comment about Thursday and being compassionate towards everyone. My own kids are looking forward to Thursday. It's a time of eagerness and anticipation. There was careful crayon arranging at my house this afternoon before I came here. Everything's in order. So I wish families and teachers and support staff all the best in getting things squared away and ready for a successful start. I want to extend my appreciation to the staff this evening, in particular, Mr. Holland, Mr. Anderson. I don't mean to throw you under a bus, but I do tend to try to understand things as best I can. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate my other board members' questions. We don't even have extra buses to throw you under. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to close with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Holloman.
Yeah, we can throw you under the bus, but nobody's driving.
Nobody's driving, right?
I do want to say thank you to the superintendent for emphasizing that this is temporary, because I think a lot of the community sees the bus situation as something that's going to happen all year. And also some of the details about where drivers are coming online, I think just helps people understand that there is a plan, it's working. It's going to take some time, obviously. But I think that will help assuage a lot of people. This is not how we see the future. This is just a situation we're in for a little bit, and it will go away as the year progresses. I do also want to join in on the comments about Diamond Estates. The fact that they're in the South Golden View attendance area has more to do with what the district desires in shaping their student bodies. They're very close to two other schools. And even in normal times, when we have our full complement of buses, they're in an unfair situation. It's difficult for them to stay after school. It's difficult for them to come to after hours events, because it is a bit of a journey for them, where if they were going to Mears and Diamond, it literally could be a bicycle ride, and it's not at all. So that, and I don't know if there are other carve outs like that where people, kids are an unusual distance from the school that they are zoned into. But in prioritizing for people hardest hit, those would be areas to look at in terms of trying to bring service back to as quickly as possible. Lastly, I just want to say there is a September 24th meeting of the governance committee.
August. Is it August? I think it's August.
August, yes. Thank you. This is still Tuesday, right? An August 24th meeting. The goal basically is to clear the calendar from things that carried over and whatnot, and get everything that's been on the agenda ready for the September meetings. So I know a lot of board members haven't had enough meetings yet because it's only September, and this is the one way to help get them under your belt and get rolling with that. So other than that, yeah, the people I've talked to are excited about the year. Everybody hates professional development on the first day of school. You can't succeed that way. Everybody wants to be in their rooms. If you ever really want to like boost your popularity with staff, and just announce everybody gets to go to the room and stay there. There won't be any meetings that day, but as an educator, I know that'll never happen. So, thank you.
Thank you. Member Wilson, do you have any comments for us?
I do, yes. Thank you. And I will not repeat all that Member Holloman and Member Higgins said about the community members that advocated and testified on behalf of the students at Diamond Estates, but I appreciate that information, and I appreciate all that Member Holloman just said regarding those students and the distance that they have to travel to their school in relation to other schools that are closer to them. I also wanted to say that I had the opportunity to attend the CTE workshop that Dr. Bryant referred to earlier, and it was a full house. It was great energy, great conversation. I really appreciated that the school CTE staff and teachers had the opportunity to have such great open conversations about how, with the school business partners, about how to better partner, how to serve the students better, how to prepare them for their future careers. So it was super amazing. So thank you for those efforts to the CTE program, to Dr. Bryant and everybody who put that together. It was pretty amazing. I also wanted to say thank you to a couple of the community partners that put on, and I know there were probably many more that I didn't attend, but Cops for Community had a clothing giveaway at Clark Middle School. They were giving each of the members, community members, family members, kids that came through a ticket, and they could get 2 garbage bags full of clothing. While I was there, they ran out of their 1,000 tickets and continued pushing people through so they can continue getting clothing. They were getting haircuts. It was just an awesome event. So thank you for all that work. I know Steve had attended and volunteered all week. I believe other board members had volunteered for that. So just an amazing event. I know Fairview Rec Center had a back to school event, and tons of families got backpacks with school supplies. So again, I just want to highlight a few of the many things that our community is doing to support our kids, our staff, and our families. So thank you. Also wanted to share that our next communications meeting is on September 22nd. I'm excited to hear more at that meeting about our community engagement report, all that's being done as far as community outreach. So I look forward to hearing more about that information from the staff. So thank you again. Have a good night.
Thank you. I just have a couple of probably echoes. I do want to welcome the teachers back. I'm not on Facebook a lot, but they are just ready to get their babies, get them back into their classrooms. And that excitement is, I love first days of school. I have a first grader and a sixth grader, my grandsons. and they can hardly wait. So if anybody wants to, board members, if you'd like to join me as a crossing guard on the first day of school, that would be wonderful. We'll figure out how we have to do what we have to do that, Matt, but that's one thing we can help out with. You don't want me driving a bus, I can tell you that now. But I also want to thank the collaboration with the mayor and the governor's office. I also want to thank the staff and the superintendent for reaching out to them, however that happens. Who called whom, I really don't care. But the fact that there is collaboration and we are coming together for the good of our kids and our families, I think that is wonderful. On behalf of the board, I do want the board to know that the Diamond Estates issue was elevated to the superintendent this afternoon, probably late morning today. And so it's where it needs to be to get the attention that it needs. And I do thank those who came forward to testify or to give comment regarding that particular issue. And I think that is about it for me. But have a fabulous first day of school. I know everybody in this building is going to be out somewhere doing something. And I know I'm excited. So thank you guys for all that you do. And Dr. Bryant.
Have a great evening.
Oh, that's it? Oh, wait, it's okay.
And happy first day of school. Happy first day of school. I can't wait to tell you how it went.
All right.
Stay tuned.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments from our esteemed gallery? None? You guys are awesome. Thank you for your hard work. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
There's second. Moved and second to adjourn. Seeing no opposition.